afternoon, this evening. My name is Joanna Salinas. I am the Outreach Coordinator of the Waukesha County Green Team. For those of you who are new to us, we are a volunteer-based 501c3 organization focused on promoting environmental and economic sustainability in Waukesha County communities through education, collaboration, and local action. So to do this, we work with residents, businesses, schools, municipalities, and other organizations. And we are excited to gather you all here this evening to hear from Heather Deaton, who is a wealth advisor with Ellenbecker Investment Group, for our Sustainable Finance series. So tonight we're going to be diving right into charitable giving, or giving in times of crisis. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much, Joanna, and good to see everybody out there and anyone later who's watching the recording.
Mm-hmm.
I can go ahead and share my screen and dive right in, Joe?
Absolutely.
Is that good? Does it look like a...
It looks perfect.
Okay. So for our agenda today, I'll introduce myself for anyone who's new. We'll talk about really what it means for core values and how that relates to philanthropy, and then talk through ways to give back. I'd like to touch on some tax strategies, and then also some resources, and then open conversation for questions. So this is a slide a little bit about me. Like Joe said, I'm a wealth advisor with Ellenbecker Investment Group, and I've been there. I just celebrated my 4-year anniversary. And about charitable giving, I am very proud that Ellenbecker donates $1,000, allows each employee on their anniversary to donate up to $1,000 up across 2 different charities if you'd like. And we have about 35 associates. So the Ellenbecker Foundation is really rooted in gratitude and charitable giving. And so mine went to Fondy Food Center and the Lutheran Campus Ministry of the Greater Milwaukee Synod. Those are 2 boards that I serve on. And I actually have their icons on here as well, because that is one thing that I do, or giving back in that way is a way that I like to spend my time. I also have on here a picture of my husband and I. We've been together for a long time, married for 20 years, and we've got 2 kids that are in the picture there. They are in high school, junior and senior year, and it's an interesting time to watch kids kind of come into what's almost adulthood. I do hold my CFP. I achieved that last summer after rigorous coursework and an even more rigorous board exam. One thing I really like about the CFP and my other designation, which is social responsible investing, is that I got a really great deep and depth of knowledge and a base to start with, and then ongoing there's continuing education requirements. So that's something that's important to me too, is always to continue to learn and be curious, whether it's about something very formal like a certification, or it's something about culture or society or just other people's experiences. Another thing that I do as part of Ellenbecker Investment Group is I run a monthly group for the community. So it's a lot of our clients, but it's really open to anyone. It's called Sustainable Living. So we touch on a different topic about sustainability each month. So this next week is our November meeting. It's always the first Wednesday in the month, and we're going to have somebody from Renew Wisconsin. In fact, I think Joanna knows Heather Allen is going to be presenting about sustainable vehicles. And then in December, I am going to do a gifting type seminar, similar to the one that I'm going to do in 2 weeks here. And then I am just now crafting what 2021 is going to look like. So stay tuned. This graphic here is something that we have at Ellenbecker Investment Group. I had mentioned how gratitude is very important to us. Giving back is very important to us. Really being rooted in our core values is something that is important to our culture. It's important to how we can lean on each other and respect each other and count on each other. This this word picture thing has all of our core values, and I would recommend that everybody or every family do this as well. Now, like I said, this is the Ellenbecker Investment Group one, but to be able to have what your real values are and have those in front of you in any kind of way that you can really, again, root you to how to live your life and how to give back and how to spend and how to save and who to take care of and how to take care of people. You know, my core values really are sustainability, you know, making things that you have last longer, service, giving back in any different way that I can, mostly in real like volunteering service is where I really have a passion. And then also in creativity. I like to be able to, I like to scrapbook, I like to take pictures, I like to try recipes. So if I can get those kind of core values around in my day-to-day life, it leads me to be much more enriched. I do feel like get to do each of those things in part of my job too, which is meaningful to me. Okay, so when we talk about digging right into actual charitable giving, so with this year, because this is kind of the how to do this in light of a crisis, if you think about what charitable organizations are really facing this year, there's several barriers because of COVID-19. So there is an increase in demand because of all of the different impacts of people losing their jobs, or people losing services, or having to take wage reductions, or having changes at home with kids being at school, or excuse me, at home instead of at school, or not in school at all. There's been a reported 23% increase in demand. On the same side, there's also the chance of reduced revenue because of all those same reasons. Fewer people working, companies having less business going through and having less less to contribute charitably. So that was going to collide with a 38% reduction in revenue. And then when you also think about what increasing needs there are, so I'm going to look at my notes here, and it kind of goes to some of the bullet points there. You know, there was a lot of time needed in a lot of organizations to figure out how do we continue to do our work with the right equipment, with the right protections, with the right PPE, following all the CDC protocols, making sure that how you do your work as a charitable organization, how you deliver your services is done in a safe way, with social distancing, with the proper masking, with the proper understanding of all the clients and how they are expected to react and act in your, say, farmers market. There was a lot of work done for farmers markets this year. We all used the same type of signage, so there was additional signage needed. Our market at Farmers Market at the corner of Fond du Lac Avenue and North Avenue in the city of Milwaukee, we also have multiple signs in different languages too, because we have a very diverse set of shoppers that come. So that all kind of adds to that increasing expenses. It also takes time away from the staff, which many of these organizations run very lean, takes time away from them being able to fundraise and do quality service that they need to do. So it's kind of this overall kind of imperfect storm, I should call it. The other part is the canceled events. You know, most fundraising for charitable organizations comes from either grants or grants from foundations, individuals. Most of those, that individual giving also comes from, say, in-person events, like say the Reps Curtain Call Ball, which is a, you know, very rich and lush event that they have that raises much of their funds there. Our Fondy Food Center, we have a feast, farm to table feast on the Mequon Nature Preserve at the Fondy Farm every August. We didn't have that this year. The Rep Curtain Call Ball didn't have theirs. So we switched ours to a drive-through. You know, made the experience a lot different, but we had a lot of work to put in to say, we really want to make this a high quality experience, but we also had to set our expectations appropriately. Curtain Call Ball was all online. I believe they opened that up. There wasn't any kind of a ticket fee to attend, you know, but you were also had a grand opportunity to donate. So that's just, you know, but then even when we think about, oh, you can pivot to an online, or you can pivot to a to-go and drive-through. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but there's a bit of, I think there's some fatigue of some of this too. So being able to keep new and fresh ideas and get excitement has been hard for the organization. So these are all kind of reasons why to give. Many of the places had to also pivot like on a dime as to what kind of services they even provided. Just One More Ministry, JOMM, J-O-M-M. It's a charity that I know a bit about. They started at our church. They provide food to people that need it using rescued food. So restaurants that aren't going to use the, like caterers, when they don't use everything that they created, they can donate it to JOM. JOM packages it up into family-sized meals and sends it to homes that need it and to other organizations that can distribute it. They also take the nearly expired food from from grocery stores. They repackage that and get that out to people in need. Well, that wasn't happening. There aren't catering events earlier this year to be able to get the rescued food from. So they actually switched, and they were doing all their effort was put into the Mask Up Milwaukee project. If you've heard of that, where they made the whole project made, I think, over 2 million masks so far. We did a kit. We made 700 masks. It was pretty amazing. And then another one is the Tandem Restaurant. They're in Lindsay Heights, right near Fondy. And they went completely to community meals. And Caitlin Cullen, the chef there, raised more funds to be able to continue to provide free meals to the community. They gave out, I think on average, it was like 500 or 1,000 meals a week. And then she continued, they were sponsored by Jose Andres World Central Kitchen. So they were able to even provide more. And what they did, it was this kind of win-win-win. They were able to take some of the donated funds and hire restaurants to create the meals that got given out to the hungry people. And those funds to that restaurant helped them stay afloat longer. So it's a couple of stories that I just really like to share when we talk about this. Okay, so how do you give back in a crisis? I've got bullets here. We'll kind of talk through this, but one thing to think about is, you can give time and talent for sure. That's always a great thing for organizations to have your help. Things have changed. Some of the organizations can't have in-person volunteers anymore because they don't have the proper spacing, or they can't have the large groups, and their services are just different. Even what they can take in has maybe changed if you were going to give any in-kind donations. So the reason I point that out is just to note that you really want to do your research in advance. Again, kind of look at your core values, find the organizations that fit with that, and then see how you can help. Maybe an opportunity in this year where some things in our lives have slowed down a bit, that might give you an opportunity to give back in a different way. Give back with your true talents, maybe serve on a board, maybe do bookkeeping for an organization. Also other kind of time and talent and in-kind donations could be making masks for different organizations to hand out where it's needed. Whether you're making cloth masks or fabric masks, or making outbound calls to ask people to help out in a different way, or see how the people who receive the services are actually doing. I know that's something our church has been doing too for our different members of the church, is to just keep up with people. And so we're, trying to make calls and asking other people that are just members of the congregation to call other people, because it's isolating right now for many. If you have graphic design or HR experience, I know that's two things that both of my boards lean on a lot from our board members and from our kind of members at large too. There's virtual events. I talked about that, the Reps Curtain Call Ball, Trickle B Cafe, which is a restaurant in the city that's actually a pay-as-you-can restaurant. They had a virtual event just about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, to promote what they do and what their mission is. I did a Girls on the Run virtual 5K this summer before my stress fracture. Don't get me started. But there's different ways that you can participate in different virtual type things. Another thing to think about too is social media fundraisers. I don't know if you've noticed that much in your past or even just this year, where say in honor of your birthday or in honor of your anniversary, because everybody knows when your birthday is on Facebook if you've posted it, and they're all going to come out and they're going to all say happy birthday on your page. So you can actually set up an organization and it's an easy just click to donate that's on your page, and you can set a goal, whether it's $50 or $5,000, and your friends and family will be able to see how close you're getting to that goal and how they can contribute in your honor. One thing about that is that those funds, from what I understand, they take a little while to get from Facebook all the way to the charity, but it gets there eventually, and it's going to help down the road. I already told you about the work anniversary donation that Ellenbecker does. We've also put our anniversaries out of all of our associates on our Facebook page as well. We don't so much put the donation part of it, but just to be able to promote kind of what you do around special milestones. And then also when you do donate, you can also sometimes post that and share that on Facebook. Like when I did the Girls on the Run virtual 5K, and also when I signed up, they had like a film festival, this mini kind of like shorts films. It was called Luna Fest, sponsored by Luna Bar. And I was able to post that I was going to that. So it's just a way to get people in your circle to want to participate in the same things that you are. It's a way to increase, almost do like a matching of what you're doing. Other things that are more on the close to home side, and some of these are fairly obvious. We're all very caring people, but checking on neighbors, offering to run errands or just visit them on the phone, especially if they live alone, if they're older, if they're not able to get out as freely. Maybe they're ordering groceries to be delivered, or they're doing a drive-through pickup every few weeks. It'd be kind of nice just to have sometimes if somebody just called and said, you want me to go get you a latte? If that's just something they're not going to be able to do. I know a lot in the summer, what we did was like sidewalk chalk. That's always kind of fun and cheery. Also with that, when you think about what you have at home, if you've got things to share with others, that it's just a nice thing to keep in mind for more in your local community. And then the last bullet point I have on here is to support small business. And like Therese, you shared, the Plowshares, that's a fair trade shop in Waukesha. That's a great place to support. That is going to go through some difficult times as things are hard to get into and shop. With anybody who can, who they started their online shopping website, so that's a way to support them. I really think about the small businesses and small local owned restaurants. I do like big box stores, and I do appreciate the ease of getting certain things from Amazon, but I don't want to be stuck at the end of all this with only Amazons and Targets. And I don't have any issue with those two companies, but I don't want to see all of our smaller businesses, and I don't want only big chain restaurants left at the end of this. So making sure that you can shop at those places as you can, donate to the virtual tip jar, donate to, buy gift cards and just hold on to them, for a while if you need to. Gift the gift cards as a way to help support the local and smaller businesses. Okay, now for the finance side of it. So I've got a series of bullets here and I'll talk through these as well. So the CARES Act, that was the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Stimulus Act. That's from 2020. You're probably familiar with that acronym. But one thing that was in that is that every tax return gets a $300 above the line deduction for charitable contributions. If you take the standard deduction, you don't get a deduction for charitable contributions right now unless you itemize. But with the CARES Act for tax year 2020, you can have a $300 deduction for contributions up to that amount. So keep your receipts. You'll want to put those in with your taxes or give them to your tax preparer. But that's new this year, and it's a nice thing. It'd be great if it was more, if people were able to give more. But that's a strategy we'll kind of talk about down the way too. Okay, so I've got the rest of these are kind of a variety of, they're not sophisticated ways to give, they're just ways to think about giving. So if you are going to donate, but you have, say, you've got cash and you've got maybe some stocks in in a taxable or like an after-tax account. So not in your 401k, not in your Roth, but you've got something that maybe you bought through an employee stock purchase plan a while ago, and it's did really, really well, and it's highly appreciated. So you bought it for $10 a share, and now it's $200 a share. If you sell that and you get the $200, you can donate $200 to the charity. But you're going to pay capital gains taxes on that $190 of profit. So instead of selling it and giving the cash, give them that $200 share of stock. Give it to the charity. you get a $200 tax deduction if you itemize. So, you know, $200, we may be wanting to talk more like $2,000, but you get the deduction on it. The charity sells it and they don't pay taxes on that gain. So instead of giving cash, if you've got highly appreciated securities that you no longer really feel the need to hold on to, you think they're about as high as they're going to get, or they're at risk of even going down, get it to the charity. The charity sells it right away. They've got the cash and you didn't pay the taxes on the capital gains. And you may be able to even take the tax deduction if you itemize. So that's kind of that's a taxi type strategy. The next one is called a donor advised fund. Now, this is a fund that you open with a foundation. You're in charge of it. You contribute to it. It gets invested. You can participate in how it's invested. You pay some management fees on it. That's kind of one caveat, is to look at the fees that are associated, because sometimes they're like 1.5%. So you just want to be careful. We work with TD Ameritrade and with a couple of endowment funds, and then we're able to kind of, we have a little bit better rate than the 1.5%. But regardless, you open up an account and you donate to it. So let's say you donate $5,000. You would get that tax deduction if you itemize of $5,000 right now. And then you invest it in this donor advised fund. Maybe it grows a little bit because you probably are kind of conservative with it. And then next year or later this year, you say, I want to send $1,200 to Hunger Task Force. That $1,200 would go through that foundation and go to Hunger Task Force. You don't get a deduction then, right? But what this allows you to do is take a larger sum of money and donate it all in 1 year. Okay, that allows you to kind of boost up your charitable giving, which might make it where it makes sense for you to itemize. So you do like a whole bunch of giving in 1 year into this donor advised fund. The reason for that is that you don't have to decide where it all goes right now. It can sit there and you can donate it much later. You can donate it forever. You can leave the donor advised fund to your kids or your grandkids, and they can decide where it goes along the way. So like I said, the purpose for that is that you can kind of build up a bigger giving fund, take advantage of the tax break now. It grows, you don't pay taxes on that growth, and you get to donate it down the road, to grant it out. So that's a good strategy if you wanted to do an every other year. So let's say you're single. The standard deduction is, let's make it easy, well, it's about $12,000. So 1 year you don't itemize and you take the standard deduction of $12,000. And the next year you say, I want to itemize. So you keep all your medical receipts, you keep your mortgage interest, you keep your state and local property taxes. All three of those have some pretty small limits. But if you then donate enough to where maybe all that plus the charitable donation adds up to, say, $17,000, then you've itemized, and then you get a $17,000 tax deduction. Then the next year, you don't give anything to charity because you've just given a whole bunch in that 1 year. So the next year, don't give everything, take the $12,000 standard deduction. And then the next year, you do the same thing. You boost up your charitable giving. So it's called like a bunching or bundling of your charitable contributions, like an every other year type thing, if that makes some sense. And a donor advised fund is a way to just help with that. If you're like, well, I don't want to give it all to these charities this year, I want to be able to stretch it out. The other thing you can do is, if you do that bunching and bundling, you just talk to your organization. You just say, Fondy Food Center, I'm going to give you 2 years worth of donations in 1 year. Or you do one in January and one in December, and they can, it's far enough apart where it feels like it's across the 2 years. Okay, then the next one, QCD from an IRA. That stands for Qualified Charitable Distribution. And an IRA is a retirement account. An IRA, you're required to spend when you turn 72. So it used to be 70 and a half, but now it's 72 years old. And the government makes you start spending it. Well, starting at 70 and a half, you can start donating using this QCD, Qualified Charitable Distribution. So you take say you want to give $1,500 to a charity. And you're over 70 and a half. You say, okay, I'm going to give out of my IRA. So the $1,500 goes from the IRA into a check that goes straight to the organization. Okay. Usually, if you take anything out of your IRA, you pay income taxes at that time. You don't pay it on those QCDs. So it's the way to take funds out of an account that would normally be taxed, and you don't pay taxes on it. This is really a great strategy for those that are over that age 72 and they're taking the required minimum distributions, because this charitable distribution counts towards that. The government looks at your IRA and says, oh, this year you need to take out $6,000 or maybe $12,000, depending on how big of the account it is. And then you could say, well, fine, I'm going to gift, $8,000. I'll take it out of the IRA, give it to the charity. The government says you really need to spend 12. You only have to take out 4 more. Only those 4,000 are going to be counted as income. So these are like, again, not overly sophisticated strategies, but just real strategies when we think about, what to do, how to best use the tax code to your benefit while you benefit the charities that you're interested in. Another option you would have is to use life insurance. So if you've got a life insurance policy, or you want to have a certain amount go to a charity, you could get a life insurance policy and have them be the beneficiary. Or if you already have something, they can have some dollar amount out of it. Like, let's say you feel like your retirement accounts and everything else, your estate is going to cover your family good enough, and you've got $100,000 life insurance policy that you have, and maybe you say, I want that to go to my 3 favorite charities, and you have them in there as the beneficiaries. There's if you really get sophisticated and you say, you know what, I'm going to buy the life insurance policy now, but I definitely want the charity to get it. Then you actually have them as the owner. You have to have some trust that that charity is going to be there by the time you expire, but you can have them as the owner, and then you could actually get a tax deduction on those premiums that you pay, because you would still be paying the premiums. So again, that's something to talk to your kind of tax advisor and financial advisor about. Okay, one other piece here, a couple other pieces. So donating to offset income from Roth conversion. So again, when you are in, say, retirement, and you have your 401k and IRAs, you can strategically take funds out of those tax deferred accounts and move them to a Roth IRA. The reason you would do that is that the Roths grow tax-free forever. So you could maybe you're in a low tax bracket and you say, I'm going to pay low taxes on this chunk that I'm going to take out of my IRA, but I can put it into this Roth and it'll grow tax-free forever. You pay the taxes right then on that distribution that you took, that conversion. But then you say, okay, and I've got cash to spare over here. I'm going to donate some of this because then I get a tax deduction. So you can use it to kind of balance that out. Again, this is combining all sorts of different financial strategies together, but just something to think about, where charitable giving, in the end, it's really about helping others. But on the kind of financial preservation side, you want to use this strategically when it comes to taxes. And then the last piece is, if you've got something that's really complex and has always been really difficult to track, and you just kind of want to be done with it, maybe there's some stocks that have some different complexities to it, or it's an asset. Maybe you have some a building or real estate, a holding in real estate somewhere. You can donate that, and then you've done something good. You might get a tax deduction for it if you itemize, and the charity will get a benefit from it, and you don't have to kind of deal with it anymore. So that's kind of the other piece on that. Again, that's just kind of a handful of different things to think about on the financial side. Now, I'm going to talk a bit more about this in 2 weeks, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but there's philanthropic gifts. There's the holidays are coming. I just got, I brought it in here. I don't know where I put it. I just got the catalog for the World Wildlife Federation with their good gifts. And, again, I'll talk more about that in a couple of weeks, but these are just some high level things, in case you don't come in a couple weeks, about things to do on a philanthropic side when it comes to gifting. You know, we do the ELCA good gifts. So we will donate in honor of family members. Maybe we donate a hive of bees or water for a village, or like Heifer International, you can donate a cow or a part of a cow. Many different ways that you can do that. And many organizations have just a great list of these kind of good gifts. Kiva, that's a microfinancing nonprofit. So that's where you make small little microloans to entrepreneurs around the world. They actually have US based people there now too. So you can lend $25, I think as low as $25 to an entrepreneur who's trying to maybe raise money to improve their shop or their manufacturing or their delivery in order to improve their business, or maybe even just to get started. And then they pay you back, and then it grows because they pay you back a little bit of interest too. Then you can kind of relend that out. So that's been something great. We've been doing it. We have had a Kiva account for about 10 years. Obviously, there's Adopt a Family, and that piece of it, and that brings up the word family, is that with these philanthropic gifts and any kind of philanthropy, if you can involve your family, whether it's your family up, your family down, your family sideways, right? That's going to be really more meaningful for you. One of our founder, Karen Ellenbecker, she actually gifts, and again, I'll talk about this in 2 weeks. She gives each of her grandchildren a certain amount of money that they get to donate, that she will donate for them to an organization that they want it to go to. And she asks them to research it, do a presentation as to what kind of organization it is, how it affects and impacts the community, and why they chose it, why it's important to them. And so she'll talk about that at Thanksgiving, and I believe they do that through sometime around Christmas. They do their presentations, and then Karen gifts out, from her accounts on the kids' behalf. And that's just a really great way to do that. If you think of, like, say, a 5-year-old or an 18-year-old, how different that is. But we do that as a family. We do that for Giving Tuesday. We sit around the computer and we each get to pick an organization that we give a certain amount of money to on Giving Tuesday, which is always the Tuesday after Thanksgiving weekend. And one other piece, just another anecdote about Karen's family. So one of the granddaughters picked Haws. That's the like Humane Society in Waukesha. And that's where she wanted her funds to go because she loves animals. Well, as a part of that contribution, they got invited to a behind the scenes tour. And so Karen took her granddaughter and they went to that. And from that experience, her granddaughter Savvy was so inspired. She started volunteering there. And now I think she actually works there. And it's just been this magical thing to see how much impact that one donation had on this like young, now I want to say like young woman, from, several years ago, being able to get more involved in the organization. Let's see. That was about what I had on that. And let me see. I think I'm pretty good on time. I'm almost done. I did want to give you a little bit of resources here. I gave some from Ellenbecker Investment Group. So we have 2 radio shows. We've got Money Sense, which is, both of these radio shows are on WISN AM 1130. And Money Sense has been on the air for 30 years. Karen started that like 30 years ago. And that's a financial kind of comprehensive life-based radio program. She's got some great topics out there. She did a whole Conversations with a Purpose that were really, really good kind of over the summer. And so I would definitely recommend looking into that show. It airs on Saturdays and Sundays and then is available on Apple Podcasts. But our other show, now we've had this other show for about 3 years, and it's Milwaukee's Philanthropic Community. So the host of that show is our Director of Client Relations, Jill Economou. And she interviews 2 different small nonprofits each week. It's on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock. And in fact, the Waukesha County Green Team, they just recorded, I think, last week. And I don't know, it's airing, I think, in November.
In November, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just a great way. And Jill does a really, really nice job. She is an incredibly prepared host and is really personable. So it's great to listen to. But the nice thing about that is that it's smaller charities. It's smaller organizations that don't have the marketing budgets, that don't have the network yet to get their message out. And so, you know, we kind of mindfully choose some of the smaller ones because it's a way for them to get their story and their mission and their impact and see who else wants to help them out into the world there. Two other bullets I have there, a way to kind of look at who you're donating to and get some more detailed information on the financial side is to go to Charity Navigator. It's a website and it has all 5013Cs out there. And then if you're looking to donate your time, Volunteer Match, that's another place too. You can look for things that are a one-time event or a weekly occurrence if you want to spend a lot of time, a little time, if you want in person, if you want it scheduled, if you want it ad hoc. So that would just be another place to maybe do some research as you're looking on ways that are meaningful to you to give back. And that's where I really wrap up. I have gone through all my slides. If you have any specific questions, I know we're going to cover questions in a minute, but if you have anything that we don't cover, you can contact me, my email address and my office phone number. You could always go to our website. You can email me through there as well. We've got like Meet the Advisors. You can watch a video about me and then read my bio too, but link out to me through there.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Heather. And I will include this information not only in the email, follow-up email I send out, but if you're watching this on YouTube right now, it'll be below in the comments in the information section on the YouTube video. So her information will be there as well. So Heather, we had just a couple of questions come in. And Frankie asked, can you use donor-advised funds through a community foundation as well as a regular bank?
Regular banks I don't believe they have the donor-advised funds. You have to go through like the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. They run them. The American Endowment Foundation, they have them. Another like local-ish one is the National Christian Foundation. Now, one thing to research is kind of their guidelines and like their rules around granting, because they can have different ones. I think like Greater Milwaukee Foundation doesn't have, it doesn't have to only be Milwaukee. That may have been a rule a while ago, but I know we confirmed that for a client that it's not that. The National Christian Foundation, they do have some different kind of special rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then when you were talking about the $12,000 standard deduction, that was for tax returns, correct?
Yeah, and that was for an individual. And I've got this. It's $12,400. I have my tax sheet right here. So that was yep, that's for it's your standard deduction as an individual. Married filing jointly is double that. It's 24,800. If you are blind or over 65, there's some additional deductions that you get as well. Like another $1,300, I think, for each of those.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
And then can you just go over one more time? So when you're selling, so to donate a stock to an organization, is it better to donate the entire stock or to sell it and then donate the profit?
So if it is, I like to say highly appreciated, right? So if you sold it and you were going to realize capital gains, so maybe you've invested over the years, you know, when you bought this set of stocks, maybe you invested like $1,000. That's called your cost basis. But now the stocks you bought using that like $1,000 over the years, it's now grown to $6,000. Well, you're going to pay taxes on that $5,000 of profit. You're going to pay taxes on the gain. And you may be in a 0% capital gains rate, depending on your income. But let's suppose that you're not. If you're in a 15%, which many people are, you would pay 15% tax on that $5,000 profit. And then you still want to donate to the charity. So if you just gave them that $6,000 worth of stock, you don't pay that 15%. Okay, so you give them the actual stock. So that's the reason that's why it's not just to donate any stock, because if there's like a teeny gain on it, it's just more of a hassle. You might as well sell it and give them the cash, you know, because you're really not going to have much of a gain, a tax impact by that little bit of a gain. But if you've got something that's kind of gonna be a bigger tax impact if you sold it, just donate it instead. Does that make sense? I kind of explained it the same way I explained it before, so that if there was a question, that question might still be there.
No, that's fine. That's clearer.
Okay. And if you want to talk offline, Frankie, you can just give me a call.
Okay.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I have that's fine. I know it's you know, it's a little easier to kind of talk like, okay, really, what might we be talking about? And it's also important. Here's the other thing, and I didn't say this before, but you have to make sure, obviously, that your charity can take the stocks. Not all charities can take it. They're not all set up with the right kinds of systems for themselves to take the stock. Because you got to be able to give it to them in some way.
How do you normally do that? Like when I bought my stock through Ameritrade or something like that. And
so it's in like a TD Ameritrade, like taxable account.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
And
so if it's in like your individual account there.
Yeah. So I have some stock that has appreciated quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, and you're probably like, how am I ever going to sell this? Because I'm going to get killed in taxes.
No, I don't. Well, I don't know.
Right.
So.
Well, but then, so what you would do is you would work with your advisor or with TD Ameritrade Retail. There's a form that you fill out, but you would need to get the information from the charity on where that stock needs to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
And Heather, this might be information that you'll cover some in our next webinar in a couple of weeks on gifting. But is there a way to prioritize the organizations that we give to? Like in a time of crisis, is there maybe some framework or something we should be thinking about?
You know, that's a really great question. I would think that, I come back to tying it to your core values, and not to be selfish, but just that if that's what's meaningful to you outside of a crisis, just check, is it still meaningful to you in this crisis? And then really knowing like who really needs the funds the most. I guess that'd be conversations even with like the organizations themselves.
Okay.
So, and if you think about the crisis that we're in, so people are out of work.
Sure.
We've got a health crisis. There's people that we've lost, people have died. People are out of work because their companies can't afford to pay them. People have had to miss work because maybe they are ill or a family member is ill. We've got education in many parts of the area are kind of just a mess. So if you think about what organizations need the most help in those types of situations, I was listening to a podcast today, and they were reflecting about how, and this was in like Texas, about how long the line at the food bank was. That it was like astronomical, like depression level lines at this food bank. And that's, it struck me to hear that. So, it is things like food, it is things like healthcare. It's going to be education.
The other thing too is that everybody needs help with something at different times in their lives. So I think it's all worth something. It all has some value. And if I'm just graduated from high school or whatever and on my way to college, sending money to help pay for my college bills is a good thing, or whatever. But if I'm 50 years old and I'm being thrown out of my apartment, I could use some homeless assistance. So our priorities change, and I think they're they are all critical right now. It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And even on the mental
Mhm.
and behavioral health side too, you know,
Sure.
with the isolation and with stress and fear and anxiety and, you know,
Mhm.
drug addiction and substance abuse and domestic violence. I mean, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question, is there a way or a general guideline to evaluate charity? Like, is there a form or are there forms that are required to be filled out? Are there, kind of lists somewhere of, the high impact charities or charities where the most amount of money goes to actually serve, their mission?
You can find a lot of that information on that Charity Navigator, charitynavigator.org. And that's going to have the Form 990, which is required that every charity fills out. And that's an IRS required form. So that's going to be a solid kind of fact-based information that you can get. You can find out a lot from a charity too if you look at their annual report. And most of those have those published online as well, which is different than the Form 990. But either of those two things would be good. I did just look at something. So I got mailed something and it piqued my interest. And I did see, it was very clearly stated that they have a 10% administration fee, but that's how much of their donations goes. And, that's just kind of your personal thing. Is that too high? Is that too low? Is that okay? You want to have your charities, you want them to be good financial stewards, and you also need them to be sustainable and, have the people there want to stick around and have, bring in good talent too. So it's kind of a tough balance sometimes, to say how much goes to admin versus how much goes to programming.
Would they have like 10%, if they had something like 10% with a cap? Did they ever put a cap on it, like for salaries or something like that? And doesn't Charity Navigator tell you what percent of their money goes to administrative?
Yeah,
stuff? I think it does.
I think it does as well. Right. And now if there's a cap, I guess that would be in their bylaws.
Okay.
I mean, like, really.
I would think so.
And through their audit, every charity has to have an audit at a certain frequency too, where that's going to uncover if there's something that's not properly being reported or properly being managed.
Sure. Okay. Well, this has been wonderfully helpful. Thank you so much, Heather, for all this amazing information. Are there any other final questions before we wrap up for the evening? No. Okay. Well, Heather, thank you so much. Our final presentation in the Sustainable Finance series is November 11th, correct?
Yeah.
On gifting. And we might talk some about local shopping a little bit in there too.
Yeah.
And that again will be at 6:30.
All right, take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.